come on up stage. So, some of you will know Uli. He is the author of a book called Deutschland Digital. I believe there's some flyers as well down in your seats, but he's going to be moderating a panel. So I'm actually going to leave it to him to introduce these two fantastic guests, and they're going to chat.
Okay,
so enjoy
thanks,
that.
Dan.
Let's give them a hand, please.
Okay. Till, come here. Okay. Thanks for joining our discussion. It was supposed to be a battle, a boxing battle, and we have two heavyweight champions here. Well, we'll have an interesting discussion, not a battle. And so the two people here on my side are Till Faida. He's the CEO of IO. This is the company behind adblockers. And he's from Oldenburg and now living in Cologne. And on his side is Jochen Wegner. He's the editor-in-chief of Zeit Online, which you all know. It's a media website about the same size as our website. And we are discussing today about ad blockers. And the effect of ad blocks is like this. No ads anymore, or at least no annoying ads. And some people believe the effect, the long-term effect of ad blockers on media websites is like this. No content on this festival because it relies on sponsors, and no content on media websites because they also rely on ads. Well, let's turn on the light, and I hope you're enjoying the moment kissing your neighbor. And let's start with the discussion. Till, are you blocking all ads with your ad blocker, or do you accept some ads?
I absolutely accept some ads. AdBlock Plus comes with the ability to allow what we call acceptable ads by default. And also, I disable my ad blocker on many sites that I like, and on sites where the ads are not too intrusive. Actually, the most accessible feature within AdBlock Plus is to disable it on a particular site. So for us, ad blocking is not about destroying advertising, it's about giving users choice and control over their browsing experience, so they can decide what kind of ads they want to get rid of and what kind of ads they are willing to see in order to support content creators.
Which ads do you like most?
I like the most the unobtrusive ads that don't distract me from the content. So when I'm reading an article and right next to the article there's a blinking banner or an autoplay video ad that is really distracting, then it's negatively impacting my browsing experience on a website. But ads that are unobtrusive, that provide useful information, I don't mind them at all.
Yeah. Jochen, how about you? Do you use ad blockers?
Oh, all the time. So.
Do you like them?
Yeah. Well, so due to because of my profession, I have to watch our website in a way that 40 to 50% of the users see it without ads. So and we realized that also some ad blockers started to block features of the website. So we have to find a workaround.
They block the content of the website, your content.
Exactly. So if you have rather strange apps built into the website or something, so modern online journalism isn't only about publishing text or something. So most of the time you have interactive features and stuff, and some of them seem to interact with the ad blockers, and the blocker thinks it's an ad, so we have to find a workaround for it.
That's a very professional view on that. Do you also use ad blockers for your private experience because some of the ads are annoying?
Yeah, so it depends on the parts of the web where you are, and sometime I use them, yes.
Yeah. Which kinds of ads do you don't like?
So I think basically most of the ads suck. So
most of the ads
suck.
Yeah,
if you look at the whole market, so a huge chunk of the ads just suck if you browse the web.
So he's doing a good job.
Look, so ad blocking is a cool thing. When it started many, many years ago, this was a really brilliant idea. And the only problem we have today is that, so it's a business now. It's a business for you, for example. You earn a lot of money with blocking ads and selling the same space back to us, which is a strange thing. Maybe it's legal, but it's not cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's wrong. We're not selling the same space back. What I think what is important here is many people block ads because a lot of the ads, as you said, suck. They're extremely annoying. But almost all the people that install ad blockers, they agree that ads are necessary and that not all ads are bad. And that's exactly why we started this acceptable ads program, because by showing alternative, less intrusive ads to those users that simply cannot be reached with the traditional intrusive advertising anymore. This way we can create a win-win situation in which users get a much cleaner and better experience, and publishers have the ability to monetize those users that previously have been lost due to too much and too aggressive advertising with alternative, better, more innovative ad formats. And I think this really provides an opportunity to create an ecosystem in which there is sustainability because the users are on board with how they're monetized.
But at the end, you're building, so currently trying to build an ad platform to sell the space you're blocking away, right?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, so you're the moderator.
Maybe you have to explain it's about an announcement you made just 2 weeks ago or Demexco that you have now also selling ads through a certain platform.
Let me clarify one thing. We're not selling any ad. What we've been
But it looks like.
what we've been building is this acceptable ads program, which means users get a better experience, publishers can monetize with alternative ads. Now, what we've built in the last couple of years is a very loyal user base. Millions and millions of users support this initiative. And also, we're working with most of the largest websites in the world. Now, in the past, this used to be a very manual effort to implement alternative ads on those publishers' websites. And what we've been building now together with a partner is a platform that allows publishers through a drag and drop editor to implement acceptable ads on their page. But the publisher is always in full control. We're not selling the ads. The users are in full control. And what we are just building is a more scalable way of making sure that a large number of publishers can benefit from the acceptable ads program.
Yeah, is this an acceptable way for you? Would you use this platform for Zeit Online?
I was wondering why. So you mentioned we are friendly enough to mention our website before, and you said you like our ads. And so I'm a journalist. I'm not a publisher, but so you like what we are doing. Why don't you whitelist Zeit.de or sz.de in the first place? So why do we have to pay for our own business model? I don't get that point. You know, if you would be a charity, everything would be fine. So we could agree on a global basis what would be an acceptable ad, and so users would vote, no, that's not okay, that's okay. I would embrace such an initiative. What I do not like is that you make a business out of my content.
Well, we have a successful business because we have the support of millions and millions of people, and also because we create very measurable and significant value for our partners. And that's really the only reason why we are as successful as we are as a business, because everyone who partners with us at the end of the day makes more money than before. And of course we get a revenue share based on the incremental revenues we are generating for our partners, because we are providing a very valuable and labor-intensive service.
So we are losing 30% of our ad revenues, I think. That's not. We are not earning
I think
money.
what's important
how much
here
would you share with Jochen?
I think
of the 30%?
What's important here is you're not losing 30% because AdBlock Plus exists. You're losing 30% because the consumers don't support your business model. If the users don't appreciate the ads you're putting on your site and they choose to block them, then you can either go the easy way and just blame us for it, or you just listen to the consumers and create a better experience they're actually willing to accept. And I think that's a much more sustainable long-term strategy on the web, instead of trying to force people to see certain ads they clearly don't like. There's a huge opportunity in just giving them a much better experience, because ads don't have to suck.
So given could you imagine that we are working hard on having great ads and not other ugly stuff, but it's impossible for us to kind of circumvent ad blockers, because it just doesn't matter if you care what kind of ads you have on your website. You're blocked anyway. I know that you can, opt out or show the ads, but nobody does that, obviously.
Yeah. Let's ask the audience maybe. Who's using ad blockers and is banning all ads? Raise your hands. Okay. And who's only banning some ads? Okay. And who's using no ad blockers?
Wow.
Wow. It's maybe, I don't know. I won't say any numbers. It would be unfair. But that's interesting. So some people opt out of banning all ads, but maybe less than those
And it's
banning
also,
all.
so if you think about it, it's also about, we are not forcing people to visit site.de and consume great content. So I'm not forcing you to go to sz.de to read something. And if we think it's a part of our business to show ads, we should be free to do so, shouldn't we? So it would be your decision to visit the website as it is or not.
Yeah.
So I know that it's not a legal argument. It's just, is it cool or isn't it cool?
Yeah. How important are ads for your business? Could you live without ads?
Currently not, no. So we are making something like, let's say, 50-60% of our revenues is ad-based. So we are in the happy, lucky position that we have other revenue streams that are growing fast, and ads are not growing that fast anymore.
Yeah.
They're not decreasing, which is great, because we get all these kind of very nice ads of luxury brands and stuff like that. And this part, strangely enough, is growing at the moment for us.
Yeah. Till, if you would be responsible for Site Online, where would you see the business model? How should they finance the high-quality journalism?
I think it's important that we give consumers choice over how they want to compensate content creators. Some people are fine with the current ad experience. Some people are fine with fewer but less intrusive ads. Others would much rather pay for content. And I think the most successful businesses will just give choice to users and will adapt to what users are telling them. And especially when it comes to payment models on the web, I think the challenge in the past was nobody wants to sign up on 20 different websites and wants to open up an account and start paying for those websites. So what we are building currently is a new system called Flutter Plus, which is going to be the very first payment system that works across the entire web without any friction for both publishers and users. So as a user, you can decide how much are you willing to pay, and then based on your engagement, that money will be automatically distributed to the websites that you visit.
Yeah, and this would finance the whole website of Site Online?
No, it would help to monetize those users, this special segment of users that simply cannot be monetized with ads because they just don't agree with seeing any ads. And we can argue whether it's cool or not that users have the ability, but this is just how the web works. The web works in a way that users can configure how a website is displayed on their own computer, in their own browser or user agent. So we can argue about whether they should have that power or not, but the technology works that way. So I think the most successful businesses will be those that adapt to it, listen to the consumers, and give the consumers choice over how they want to compensate content creators.
Yeah. Jochen, do you give choice to the consumers so they can opt out in certain areas and don't have, like, do you change your business model towards like a website where you can have part with ads and the part without ads, and you're paying like a certain fee every month?
You know, there's a lot of kind of drift in this topic, how to finance digital journalism, whatever.
Yeah.
And we're looking into all these opportunities, and we earn quite some money with other business models, not only selling ads. But at the moment, we can't just cut them off and survive.
Yeah.
So we are profitable at the moment, I have to say.
Yeah.
And so we are happy to finance a big newsroom in Berlin with more than 100 people. But ads are part of this business, and so I'm not sure if other revenue streams will be large enough to fund our business.
Yeah, but you could create like your environment, and people pay fee every month, and then they have less ads. That's what you're recommending.
So we are thinking about what would be our next step. So the desktop quota of users blocking our ads is something like 30 to 40% at the moment, and it's growing, still growing. And so we are thinking about something that other websites already established. We show them little signs saying, "Hey, can you kind of deactivate your ad blocker for site online," and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And when we do that, there's one problem,
Yeah.
and that's the major point why ads suck. Ads suck because you can kind of inject scripts we do not want, and even we can't guarantee that all the publishers of ads comply to our standards. So we looked into that for half a year now, and we can't guarantee that. So we have to have an option for special users who want to see our content and they don't want to have ads, so they will pay a little fee to see the website and help us.
Yeah.
I think what's important here is publishers have made two mistakes historically. The first one is they've completely given up control over the ads that run on their own site, because now companies are running the ads on those sites that don't care about a relationship with the reader. And then the second aspect is they have not created any scarcity. That means as an advertiser, you have basically access to an unlimited amount of ad impressions. So that's just basic economics, that the prices of ads are decreasing. So publishers feel forced to allow more ads and more aggressive ads on their site. And this has created this vicious cycle in which ads are becoming more and more aggressive. At the same time, they provide less and less value for the publishers. And I think this is why we need to create a new ecosystem, which we're trying to establish with acceptable ads, in which fewer but better ads actually provide more value.
Yeah, but on your website, you say just at the top, content should be free. I mean, if you don't have ads and content should be free, where's the business model for a media website like Zeit Online?
That's exactly why I think we need ads. Some users may decide to pay, but the majority wants content for free, which is why we have to make advertising work. And in order for advertising to work, we have to create an ecosystem in which ads can sustainably fund content, but they can only do that if they are accepted by the consumers. We cannot create a business model which is based on forcing people to consume ads they clearly don't want to see.
Yeah.
I'm totally fine with a discussion about acceptable ads. Obviously, a lot of publishers come together to do that at the moment, and you push that, so that's great. But I don't think that you should be in charge of the discussion. It shouldn't be one monopoly deciding what is acceptable and what not. So the same
I completely agree.
Could I? The same freedom you want to have for all the users, we want to have for all the publishers. So it could be a kind of discussion. And again, if it wouldn't be a great business model to sell back our space, it would be totally fine. You should be a charity.
I don't think
let's found a charity.
No, what we are instead creating is a committee, because you're absolutely right. It shouldn't be up to a single party to decide what's acceptable. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters to me is that we have a good balance between user experience, because that's the only asset we have, the support of our users. And we have to make sure that publishers can actually generate meaningful revenues with acceptable ads. So finding that balance, that's the core of acceptable ads. And that's why we've invested a lot of research into coming up with good criteria for acceptable ads. But this is exactly the process we want to open up, which is why we're currently establishing an independent committee, which will have representatives from all the relevant stakeholders of online advertising, and they will come up with the definition of what constitutes an acceptable ad, what kind of criteria have to be met in order for an ad to be shown to users that have opted out of traditional ads by installing an ad blocker.
Yeah, but how about the idea from Jochen to change your business model and create a charity? Make no profit, or make profit and share it with all the websites?
Well, we have a successful business because we create value. And I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. We have a successful business because we have millions and millions of users supporting us. And we're working with most of the largest publishers in the world because they have seen the potential of creating more innovation and actually creating user-friendly ads. So we are only successful because we have the support of our users and because we create value for our partners.
Yeah.
And I think it's perfectly legit to have a business if you create value.
Yeah, some media companies like Axel Springer react, and they created ad blockers. They're blocking your software. What do you think about that?
I think as a user you can decide what kind of content you want to see on your screen, and as a website operator you can decide what kind of users you want on your site. So I think that's perfectly fine. But if you look at the public traffic data from Alexa, for example, all the websites that are blocking ad blocker users from accessing their site, they're losing a lot of traffic. So I don't think this is a valid strategy. I think it's perfectly fine and up to them to implement solutions like that. But I think a more sustainable approach is actually giving the users what they want instead of blocking them out.
Yeah, is it a strategy for you? Ad blocker?
Yeah, as mentioned before, we are thinking about that. So we will do something about this in the next half a year, maybe.
And you don't fear that you will lose readers on your page?
Actually, no, I don't. So we will lose some readers. So like the Googlers coming by once a year and finding something they didn't want. So that's fine if we lose them. We have really loyal readers, so I think they will accept that. My theory is, so the 30–40% of our desktop users using ad blockers, they do not use it because it's us. They are using it because of other things.
But you just said that you can't guarantee that all the ads that run on your site are actually safe.
Absolutely.
So you're trying to force your readers to disable the ad blocker, and then you might serve them malvertising.
No. This is why. So we have really critical readers, and if you don't want that, there's a third way, and you can pay some bucks a month, and you don't see ads. That's our thinking at the moment. It's not ready yet, but I think it will be that way. Just because of that reason. We can't guarantee that. Most of the time it's not the case, but there was a great presentation at Republica conference here in Germany recently where some tried to inject code in our website, and they were successful doing that. And we were in a permanent discussion after that with them, because it's really interesting for us to see what we can do against it. Yeah. And we can't do anything.
Yeah, so since time is running out, one final question for both of you. In 10 years, will we still have ad blockers, or will we have just nice ads, not intrusive, and everything is fine and everything is working in a good way?
I have no idea what our business model will be in 10 years, so I do not worry about ad blockers in 10 years.
Until?
I think we will still have ad blockers because users definitely want to have control over their browsing experience, but I do think that publishers will just have different versions of their website. One for regular users with intrusive ads, one for users with ad blockers with some ads, and then
one with the beautiful ads you serve.
We don't serve them, but we certify them, and they are beautiful, that's true.
Okay, thank you very much for this discussion. And at least in 10 years, we will have Bits and Pretzels sponsored by a lot of companies. So see you again next year and in 10 years again. Okay,
Thanks, everybody.
All right, let's give them a hand. Thank you so much.
Okay, see you.
Excellent. Well done. Oh, missed the handshake. So close to getting a handshake in there. We'll get a handshake in there. There we go. Nice. Thank you. All right, this next lady is known as the Chief Lizard Wrangler. I wish I had that title. That sounds amazing. Chief Lizard Wrangler. She was named 100 most influential people in the world by Time magazine. She's been inducted into the Internet Hall of Fame by the Internet Society. This lady's absolutely amazing. Her name is Mitchell Baker. She's executive chairwoman and co-founder of Mozilla, the maker of Firefox browser. And some of you know this, Mozilla is a nonprofit with a mission to ensure that the internet is a global public resource, open, accessible to all, has a vibrant global community of developers and contributors. Ladies and gentlemen, can you please put your hands together and please welcome Mitchell Baker. All right, enjoy.
Thank you. I'll put these over here. Entrepreneurship, is about building something new, creating something that wasn't there before. And today, the role of data is more critical early on than has been true for quite a while. In the recent era, software, just building the underlying software, was a key early aspect, when everything had to be built yourself or licensed, and there were very few libraries that were available. And in the past eras, hardware was an important part. Building hardware, buying hardware, having enough money to buy hardware, building a distribution channel. These are all fundamental early parts that the early investment funds went to. Today, of course, with virtualization and all of those things are easier, and the role of data becomes critical much earlier, as most of you probably experience. In fact, data is the new oxygen. We need it. New businesses need it. If you imagine running a business without oxygen, without data, it's hard to imagine lasting very long. Data is also reactive. Like oxygen, it changes things. Oxygen reacts with almost everything. Combine it with hydrogen, you get water. Breathe it as a human being, you get carbon dioxide. You can get carbon monoxide, a silent, deadly killer. And so oxygen is one of those substances that when it enters a system, it changes almost everything it touches. Very similar to data. Individual streams of data are powerful on their own, and when combined, they make new experiences and new things possible. Geolocation data is pretty interesting on its own, and of course, as you know, the number of businesses that now take geolocation data and combine it with other things to make new experiences is pretty high. Oxygen is powerful, and it's explosive. It can be explosive in a positive way, launching spacecraft, and explosive in very dangerous and deadly ways, just like data. Can help power and launch new startups into success, and can do immense damage to consumers and so on. And so this criticality of data in the very early phases of a startup has a couple of consequences that are broader than any one company and that aren't always part of the discussion. And today I want to talk about two of those consequences. One is that data, this key business asset, is a topic of the public conversation in a way that is new for such a key business asset. And this is particularly true as data is becoming weaponized. And the second consequence I want to talk about today is the centrality of data raising the question of online platforms once again. So, to start with the centrality of data in public discourse. This is pretty new. In building software, there was not a large public discussion about the nature of software or how it was built or if it was explosive or dangerous. There was some back and forth over the open source free software movement, but that was pretty small. In the US, one Microsoft executive tried to label it un-American. That was about as far as we got in a public discussion of the nature of software. Same is true with hardware, but data is key in public discourse. And so the development of this business asset, of this piece that gives such power to your organizations, will also be part of a public conversation. Now, to date, that's been true in a couple areas. To date, there's been a lot of discussion about trans-border flows of data, mostly about keeping data about EU citizens in the EU and not moving it to the US where the laws are different. So that's one, that's well known. I won't say much more about it today. Another topic of data that's familiar is what's generally called privacy, which I think is a misnomer and should be thought of as personal security. But the question of how much we're tracked and monitored generally comes up under the privacy piece, and it's a pretty active discussion. So I won't say too much more about that today either. But a source of discussion about data that's coming to the forefront now, sort of in real time, is the relationship of data, business data, to cybersecurity. For example, the US intelligence community is increasingly convinced that the Russian Federation is using hacking and data as a part of its plan to influence the US presidential electoral cycle. Not through hacking of voting machines and changing the vote, but through hacking of a range of different data sources and releasing that data either exactly as they got it or through modifying it as part of an propaganda/influence/data warfare program. And so the hacking of the Democratic National Committee is one instance, and that data is donor data, very similar to user data or customer data. Who are the donors? How did they participate? Which is mostly how do they donate money in the US, but how are they participating in the electoral system? What else do you know about them? How do you customize things towards them? Very similar to user data. There's email, just communications back and forth about travel planning. There's the breach of General Colin Powell's email discussing opinions about people and organizations. These are not typically national security information. It's not nuclear power plants, it's not launch codes, it's not the electric grid, it's not infrastructure. It is basic data used to run sometimes civil, sometimes business organizations. And so the infiltration of that data and the use of that data in a public process to change social dynamics and elections is a topic very much on the forefront now. And that's aimed at the US presidential election right now for obvious reasons. But it's also easy to imagine that happening elsewhere, happening here, for example. And when I say that the US intelligence community is worried about this, it may be that other intelligence communities, including those in Europe, are worried about it, but I don't know that. What I know for sure is that the US intelligence community is increasingly focused on this topic. And so what that means is information that's very similar to business information, and the types of information that you'll be gathering is now coming both to the public conversation and coming into a category of being that is both business asset for startups and companies and intelligence cybersecurity asset. So this is all very new. It's hard to say exactly where it will go, but it is something rising now. And so in thinking about businesses, a couple things come to mind. One, as your product is refined and your business model becomes clearer, I would suggest looking at the data that you've gathered and seeing how it fits in to your increasing focus. And then for the information that's relevant to your